Hi, this is Susan, and welcome back to Tasty Cakes, where we make American baked goods one recipe at a time. And today I have a super delicious and simple apricot tea cookie recipe for you. I actually really think this might be my favorite little treat that I've made so far. It's a basic butter cookie, but it has some fun add-ins in the dough, which just give it a little extra nudge of flavor. So those two things are thinly sliced almonds that are toasted and then coconut. And here we have grated coconut, not shredded like in the US. And I actually think that works better in this recipe just because they're smaller and it can blend in a little bit easier to the dough. So the first thing I'm doing is getting those into the oven so that they are toasting while I'm getting the dough ready. This is a basic creaming method cookie. So I'm getting the butter and sugar ready to get onto the stand mixer. And I have to say, one of the things that has took me a while to get used to is that you really need to cream the butter and sugar a lot longer than you think. So that's always the first thing that I get on, because you want to look for not just it being fluffy, but you also want the color to lighten up and you want it to just go, 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 because you're essentially allowing the sugar granules to cut into the butter and create air pockets. And that just takes a while. So I've got the dry ingredients ready. It's a basic dry ingredient mix. Flour, a little bit of salt, baking powder. Did forget about the stuff in the oven, so had to go do a quick check on those. And then I'm measuring out the apricot, what was supposed to be preserves. Here I can only find marmalade, so I'm using the same thing in the two different places in the recipe that it calls for. This is the marmalade that's going to go into the dough. And there you can see my coconut is nice and lightly toasted. You don't want it too dark. Hot tip, pun intended, don't put your oven too hot when you're toasting anything like this because nuts and coconut can burn very easily. So guys, got to make sure you're hydrating as you're baking. I've got the butter and the sugar going. I had taken a break to try and multitask and do something else. Nearly forgot about the almonds, but thankfully I think I caught them just in time. If you can see there, it's a nice golden brown, not too dark. If it gets too dark, it tastes a little bitter. So we want to keep it on the lighter side. I think that the butter and sugar are looking good, but you always want to constantly scrape down and get it going again to make sure that all of the butter is evenly creamed and soft and there's no big chunks. And now it's time to add in the eggs. I sometimes find that it takes forever to bring the eggs together with the butter and the sugar. Interestingly enough, in this recipe, it's not just the eggs, but it's also the coconut, the almonds, and that part of that apricot marmalade that all go in together. So again, I'm still scraping down every so often, trying to get the eggs and the butter, especially to emulsify. Sometimes if it's just taking forever and I'm getting a little impatient, I'll put a touch of the dry ingredients in because that helps bring everything together. Not probably the best practice to do, but whatever. And then I put the rest of it in. But as you can see, you always want to cover the top of your bowl because otherwise you're going to get a big dust ball in your face when you start the mixer up with all of the rest of the dry ingredients at one time. At least that's what happens with my mixer. So the mixer's done its job. I'm going to take it off. And as I've probably said before in other videos, I just like to do a final pull together of everything by hand with the spatula. So leave no dough behind. I'm trying to get everything off of that paddle. And there you can see, I mean, it's, again, your basic cookie dough, although it is pretty soft. So once I get everything off of the spatula, I'm just going to put the top on rather than wrapping it in plastic. No sense in using plastic. And that's going to sit and chill in the fridge for, I think it was maybe 2 hours I had it set in there. Probably as little as one until it's hard. And you can see I'm really trying to pull up that dough. And it is time to make a mother load of little dough balls. Normally, I am very particular and I use a scale so that I know that all of the balls are within maybe 2 or 3 grams of each other. It just ensures a super even baking process. You're going to have them all about the same color. They're all going to be finished at the same time. And it's just much more pleasant that way. Although in this case, I was a little lazy. So I'm just eyeballing it here for these purposes. So you'll see they're all snug in their rows, spaced out evenly so they have air between them. And the last step before they get to bake is putting extra dab of marmalade on top. The easiest way to do that is to make little indentations. I prefer to go like a smaller indentation but deeper, so that as the cookie spreads and expands, that hole is going to widen up and the marmalade is not going to bubble over, and it'll kind of stay put in its little home. And so you can see that from right there, you just like, you can use 2 spoons. I use a spoon and a finger, and you're just going to fill each and every hole with about a teaspoon, about the same amount. Again, it doesn't have to be super exact. And that's it. And they go into the oven and they bake for about 15, 20 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. And honestly, they were super easy, and they are just really delicious little cookies. Like I said, probably one of my favorites, and they're a crowd pleaser as well. Great for tea or coffee in the afternoon. So thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you at the next recipe.